This episode of Ask Dr. Mujajati is brought to you by Mika Group of Hotels.
Welcome to yet another very exciting episode of Ask Dr. Mujajati with me, your host, Dr. Mujajati. Men are leading the way in all the wrong statistics. Suicide. If you check the statistics with the Zambia police, you'll find that majority of people that are killing themselves are men. If you check statistics at the mental institution, you'll find that the leading admissions are because of men. So men are admitted more in our mental institution, even when you look at issues to do with substance abuse. Today, we are exploring a very important subject, and the subject is why are men dying young? And to help us explore this subject, I have two very exciting guests with me, and I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves. And the first guest to introduce themselves will be Dr. Maria Akani. For some of you who may not know her, she's a leading mental expert, but I'll let her do the honors. Dr. Maria, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners and our followers?
Thank you. As he has already said my name, Maria Akani, I am a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I'm also the managing consultant of a company called Renaissance, where we do mental health solutions. And I recently published a book entitled How Can I Make the Pain Go Away? That's focused on dealing with heartache and pain. My activities in life involve helping people navigate life through the different traumas and tragedies that they may experience, either on a group level, organizational level, or individual level.
Right. And sitting next to Dr. Maria is a man to me who may not need much introduction, but to yourselves he probably does. This is none other than Joseph Kafariman from Manap. Sir, just introduce yourself very quickly.
My name is Joseph Kafariman. I'm the co-founder of Manap Zambia, dealing in men mentorship from boys to men. I'm also a consultant, a business consultant. I run a company called Introspect. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, that's who I am. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Now, to set the ball rolling, why are men dying young? I'll start with the man. Why are you dying young?
Too much stress, I believe. Some of the stress that we stomach because we lack venting portals, so to speak. And as a result, you are doctors. You know, the more stress I bottle in, a lot of things in my body begin to fail. And because of that, I end up dying young. So that's really what causes this. And I believe we'll actually start debunking some of these things that we believe as men from the core.
Right. Dr. Akani, you are the psychiatrist here. You are the one who's admitting these men. Why are men dying young?
I can think of a number of things, but one of the things I would like to say first is poor health-seeking behavior. I think that men will wait until the problem literally paralyzes them before going to get help. And sometimes it's not even that they're going to get help. Somebody is taking them to get the help. So not being proactive about health and care is one of them. But I also think that they have high risk-taking behavior. They do a lot of high-risk activities. And some of them are either leisure activities, some of them is to do with careers and things like that. They are unafraid a lot of times. And that sometimes borders on just being cautious and not being cautious.
Right. Do you feel society has had a contribution to this? Why I say this is this. Society has seen has evolved. Or rather, it has transformed itself from a position where we were all agreed that at some point women were downtrodden, quote unquote, and they need to be lifted up. Correct. And along came the feminist movement, and along came efforts to pull up the woman. So in our effort to pull up the woman, how has that affected the man? Dr. Akan, before we speak to the man.
So I think I have my own beliefs about how that system has worked. So traditionally, I think that men did a lot of mentorship for themselves. They had their indabas, they went out for fishing or whatever things together. And that way they were mentoring the man to be a man. I think that the disruption of the village setup to a lot more individualistic society has really affected what was part of the system. But because there was an issue about how in that whole system women were not empowered, I think that the emphasis was let's empower the woman without considering that there is a system that's being defragmented here that worked for men. And so I think what has ended up happening is that the women are being empowered. They're very deliberate about it. They're creating these things. We need to do this. And then the men, it was kind of like, oh, we're already empowered. And then not realizing that it was actually a lot of deliberateness that caused that kind of picture. Right. And now we see that there is neglect, so to speak, in the boy child.
Your take, my good sir. You are the man here.
I think Dr. Akani has nailed this one. You see, the male mentorship program that started in the villages sort of fell flat, right? And so we have these males that are raising each other. We have absent fathers, where you are only father by name and not by bringing up the man-child. And so you see that the interventions for the women are more, in fact, there is almost nothing for the males. So what has happened is that a woman has grown up knowing there are venting portals that she could utilize, a friend, an aunt, and women are more trusting. And so therefore, even when the friend tells the story and she gets to know about it, she won't stop. Right. But with the males, because they had zero infrastructure, what happens is that when they bottle in, the moment they just let it out once and it is heard somewhere else, that's even just doom for them. Now, this situation has caused a lot of us males being raised by other males who have not been brought up properly. When we're growing up, they were told, use this onion for this and
onion
that.
gaula.
That onion gaula thing, this was the boys doing.
Is it still there?
I don't know, because you see, maybe they...
I don't see onion gaula now. And it was so common in our time.
It was, and very itchy, by the way, yeah. So we raised ourselves. And so now we have bars which are also raising grounds for men. These are now grown-up men who are told, you know what, with me, what I do in my house to instill discipline, I slap my woman. And the guy is lying because he's just wanting to tell old woman's tales there. And the guy goes to do it at home, messing up his infrastructure there completely. So we are not able to be support systems, all right? So we were brought up proper men. We used to make our own beds, right? We used to cook, right? We used to clean the house. You get married now, you think that chore is now for the woman. Now our women are becoming very, very, very astute. They're becoming more and more. We have more CEOs coming up. Women are taking charge. So the man was never taught to be a support system. He was taught to be the leader and leader only, to be Captain America, basically the hero of the house. And what happens now, if your wife is the one that is bringing the food on the table, do you climb up or do you offer the support? Do you reverse your roles? It's those things. It's the learning. It's an upbringing. So that's the problem we have. Now, as man up men mentorship, we actually bring these people. You know what? It's not only the boys. The boardrooms are full of broken men. Men who can't stomach the woman of tomorrow. So how do we coexist? It's like yin and yang. There's roles and responsibilities that a man was built in, a woman built in, but these things are not happening.
Dr. Akani, are men and women equal, and how has that affected the modern man?
I don't know if you can use the word equal.
What should we be saying? Because out there, everybody wants to say we're equal.
No, equal requires the use of things like sameness. And men and women are different, whether we like it or not. Unless science advances, men are not able to give birth, for example, and those things will forever be different. I think that the call is equal opportunities. And when we talk about equal opportunities, it's that people should not be restricted based on their gender.
Right.
Every human being, and I think for me, the issue is not to promote women so that they're stronger than men, because even in a society where women are stronger than men, like if you have half the population not able to come to their full potential, you're shortchanging yourselves as humanity. So I think the point is that both men and women should be able to grow and live together and grow it to full potential to bring out their attributes and their abilities. And that's when a community can be healthy. I do think that part of what causes men to die young is the mental health problems that he was raising. You know, the fact that men will not talk about those things. They're supposed to be women things, their emotions and so on. But one important thing is that we all agree that there is such a thing as someone dying of depression. This is not a person who was murdered. We know they were not murdered. We know they didn't kill themselves. But we do know that you hear people talk about it in society. This person died of depression. There is a way in which your mental health can make you live long or not. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes you see more death after a person retires, because there is a way in which you see your contribution in life sort of diminished and you start finding your value maybe less relevant. So I think that the loss of purpose in a community where you can't find yourself, your roles, or you can't find a meaningful contribution really affects how long and how well you live as a human being.
The flip side to that is this, or rather the continuation to that is this. Is there a way in which we have pushed the agenda of equality between men and women? How has that affected the man in terms of his ability to cope and deal with himself, and how is that affecting their survival?
I think that I'm going to say this anyway, but I think that it's like they were not ready for a pushback. It was always supposed to be that way, and there was no preparation of how it's going to look like if this person who we dominate will one day come up and speak up, so to speak. And so it's like there's confusion in the camp about where their role is supposed to be. But it's inevitable. I mean, one of the things I say is that you are telling, first of all, the men themselves, they want a woman who works. They want a woman who can contribute. They talk about how they want conversations that are meaningful with this partner that they have. So that means that person needs to be empowered. You know, that person needs to be empowered. And then when you now empower these people and they're now able to take up roles in community and society and so on, it requires assertiveness and aggression. Unfortunately, you have developed the person as a human being. So that will fall back into the relationships and roles in the community. It's not going to be like this is just for work. And then this is not, it's a whole person. So they come with a package. And so there has to be a lot of preparation in terms of the man, and asking yourselves, what is the role of the man for tomorrow? I think that women are working very hard to define themselves. What is the role of the woman for tomorrow? What will life look like? And men are not. At least in Zambia, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing these mentorship places and skills places. I was just saying to him before we started the program that when people come to me, and like if I have a client and they need to get off drugs or addiction, or they need to change their life, and we are looking at systems in society that they can be part of as a network, because one of the things we talk about is how you need to be part of a network. I can think of a lot of networks for women, but I can hardly think of anything for a man. You know, like I said to him, Boy Scout, Boys Brigade, and he was mentioning that, you know, that's for the boy who goes to church, and what about the boy who does not go to church? So I think that there needs to be a deliberateness. It's not going to just happen. It needs to be deliberate. And conversations like this are definitely a good way to start.
And in it being deliberate, Doctor, I think we got to realize that we are partners. This is not a competition. Look, the man was up back in the day. Now the woman is up. Right. The man is down. That is competition. We need to bring balance.
I was going to ask you this question as a follow-up to what Dr. Akani was saying. Have men forgotten how to be men?
Forgetting suggests that somebody was
or
taught.
men no longer know how to be men.
Yes, you see, when you stop forgetting, then you must talk about me, because now I'm 51, right?
Yeah.
But what's happening to a 13-year-old that's being raised by a single parent, a mother? You see, the mothers of these days want to be males, okay? And that is a problem in itself. Doctor said equality on opportunities, yes, but in quality, because of our differences, no. You understand? A man is a man, right? So boys are being raised by their mothers. And you know what? They're doing all they can to raise these boys. And some of them turn out very right because there's a support, an extended support system of uncles and all these kinds of people, yourself, myself. But have we forgotten? No, they don't know. They don't know any better. And so their friends who've had a glimpse of mistraining are teaching them the wrong things. Like she says, there's many interventions, right, for the girl child. But what's happening to the boy? We need to start building it. And this is why Man Up Men Mentorship is there. It's one of those. And now I want to talk about the corporate sponsorship. Most CSR pillars center around the girl child. When you talk children, they talk girls. They don't talk boys. And when they talk boys, it's just basically because they want to make a good speech. But when you go and
They talk about boys as a filler.
Thank you.
A very nice punctuation in the sentence.
Thank you. Yeah. But then when you go out there and say, guys, we need support. You see, this is not in line with our CSR. If it was a woman's shelter somewhere, would you do it? And all that. And it's about, and these are men talking to you like this. And I'm feeling sorry for them because I'm realizing they're equally broken. They need to realize that a man is a man regardless. The man needs to realize the woman is a woman regardless. So respect and understanding will take us to that place. You want a woman that works, but when the woman that works comes and says, honey, I got to go for a meeting in the morning, so please make the bed and just clean it's a problem for you.
On that note, let's take a short break and get a message from our sponsors before we proceed. And when we come back, we will delve deeply into the issues that lead to men killing themselves. What exactly is going on?
You are watching Ask Dr. Mujajati.
The month of love is quickly approaching us. People are going to be sharing flowers, chocolates, and all sorts of different gifts. Now for the rest of us, they're probably going to start singing Where Is Your Valentine's? So I had an idea before they do that. What if I gave us the chance to be each other's Valentine? Over the next couple of days, I'm going to be posting some videos asking questions, and the comment with the most likes gets a chance to be my Valentine.
You are watching Ask Dr. Mujajati.
Welcome back. You are watching Ask Dr. Mujajati with me, your host. Today, we are delving deep into issues that relate to why are men dying young. And to help me discuss this issue, I have with me Dr. Maria Akani, a mental health expert, and Mr. Kafariman Joseph, who is one of the leaders in our communities and runs an institution called Man Up. Before the break, we were discussing mainly about setting the stage, about the environment in which this man is living. Has the man forgotten who he is? What is the role of the man? Now we're going to go deep into discussing the issues relating to why are men dying young. Dr. Akani, why are men killing themselves? Why are we dying young? And what is killing us, by the way? Why are we dying as men, from your perspective as a mental health expert?
I'll start with focusing on the suicide issue. I think that one of the issues around that is, first of all, this lack of acknowledgement that emotions, heartache can be real issues that can disrupt your life. I think that in the traditional medical system, those are things which people don't really recognize properly because you can't see things like heartache on an X-ray. But we do see bodies breaking down from things like that. And so we find that in the lives of men, there's a lot of individualism. And one of the things I always joke about is how that you can find men who drink together for 6 months and they don't even know one another's first thing to say, boy, they don't even know where they live. So even when men say we're going to drink for social support, it's not that. They're not getting that. They're not saying their issues. They're not expressing themselves when they're there. They crack a few jokes, but not really getting to the matters and the issues. And the whole issue about how when you do talk about issues, it's like you're a softie. And so you try not to deal with those issues, but they're real issues. I mean, enough to take your life. I think that's worth paying attention to.
Why are men dying? Why are we dying? What are the causes? What's really driving this issue?
Before anything, man is spirit. Okay? Dr. Akani just mentioned that you cannot see heartache on an X-ray. You won't. So you have to understand that before man became, he was spirit, right? Then became that spirit with a body, right? And so issues that attack the spirit are the ones that are the cause of death. Shame, emotional heartache. Sometimes it may be delusional. Sometimes it can be artificial. So you see the elephant in the room, the size of that elephant depends on who is seeing the elephant, right? So when I was young in primary school, one of my friends committed suicide. And we later found out is because he made somebody pregnant. The elephant was too big for him at the time. He tried to reach out to his auntie, but the auntie was too busy. So he went and hung himself. So when we realized later that it was because he made somebody's daughter pregnant, we wondered why somebody would then kill themselves. But back in the day, to do that, the whole city would single you out as what? He made somebody pregnant. It was big at the time. But had he had the channels to discuss this, he was probably going to be with us now. Okay, so issues of shame. You know, when a man or a male is told every day that he's good for nothing, you know, men of these days have children out there, they don't even support them. Their definition of support is money. And if they don't have money, they are depressed. Not knowing that physical presence is actually more support than the money. All right? So there's a stereotype that has been, a narrative that's been created that's false. Because of that, guys give up quickly. There is no support system, remember. And so the easy way out is to do what? Take a lot of pills and go. Spray your doom and just have blue eyes at the end of the day and die. And so these are issues. Men die quickly because they don't have venting portals. A spirit dies when it is actually burdened.
Dr. Akani, we spoke about the fact that in mental health institutions, the leading gender in terms of population is men. What are the issues that are leading to a high admission of men in mental health institutions?
So number one is substance abuse and alcohol dependency. That's the number one thing. So poor choice of hobby, perhaps, which then later leads to addiction. But even with substance abuse and addiction, so I think that for me, when I think about that, it's a number of things. Sometimes it's frustration that leads to people doing that, but also it's lack of great options in the community for what else do you do in terms of relaxation. Work stress has caused a number of men to get to a point where they're feeling overwhelmed. They would maybe try and take a lot of substances to relax. Marital problems as well. And marital problems can be a big one because for a man, if they're having marital problems, it's like you can't put your house in order. You're failing to manage your house and so on. But, those are things we also need support about. Even just looking at the system, the way people are being prepared for marriage or not being prepared for marriage already causes more marital problems. Sometimes it's health issues. They have a diagnosis and working through that diagnosis and thinking, I'm going to go through this illness and take medication and have to go through several treatments that will make me feel emasculated, then those things can also cause men to really be stressed. Sometimes it's just not being able to find a way to find a job or make a living. And that can be a lot of pressure.
Is our society failing our men?
Yes.
In what ways?
And no. Now, doctor was talking about substance abuse, right? We are creatures that copy what we see. I can't remember for the life of me any movie where a man is stressed and they've not gone for whiskey, a glass of whiskey, which is right there in their setup. And that's been like the narrative pushed, that when you are stressed, what do?
Get a glass of whiskey.
Yeah. At no point are those movies showing the end state. So what has happened? Our boys are getting the Jamisons and all these kind of things. I'm stressed. I must smoke. I'm stressed. Oh, no. Don't smoke the bitter. Smoke the hard stuff. No one is ever saying the far-reaching implications of extended usage of those things. And then they finally get there. What gets them into a mental institution is because most of them, because of their masculine nature, become violent. Most of them that are not violent actually do not get checked in. Their families don't even take them there. It's the ones that turn violent because we want to take you to a place where they will keep you away from us. You understand? So yes, society has failed us in that we are encouraging a false narrative. I mean, social media is awash with all these images of life being what it's supposed to be, but that's not how life is. And in this, I'm speaking to both men and women. You know, where you want that life that you see on social media to be the life that you will lead. But you see, that's just a snapshot, a false snapshot of what somebody wants to look like, somebody wants to live a life like. But you see, we go into that feeling and thinking that's the way life is. Unfortunately, we are human bodies that actually get to be addicted to these kind of substances. There's also the fact that there is no censorship of what we watch. So porn is one of them. You know, pornography just destabilizes the human spirit. And so your kind of thinking changes. And because you cannot stomach a successful woman partner of yours, you will resort to these kind of violences and crimes. In the end, what happens? When a man goes into jail, you've actually stopped the seed from progressing the DNA.
You've raised a very interesting issue, and Dr. Akani, I want your take on this. To what extent has social media contributed to this problem that we're discussing here of men killing themselves, of men failing to manage themselves altogether?
Well, first of all, whenever reports of suicide come out, you find that the likelihood of someone else trying to take their life increases. So I think that media reporting of suicide needs to be managed. Yes. And in a lot of countries, you see how you do some media training in order to do that. In fact, 3 years ago, we did do a media training to just alert the different media houses on how they should report things like suicide, especially among the young boys. You find that once they do that, the likelihood of someone else in the school or in the community trying to do the same is higher. But apart from that, I think it's media bullying.
Are you saying that when a case of suicide is reported, it actually increases the cases of suicide in the community?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Go on.
Yes. And also because even the way they dramatize how the person died and put details.
It's like you're teaching others, if you want to kill yourself, also go and do this. This is what is, this is how it's done.
Yes. And also it's like a justification, you know, you see? So, yes. So there's a lot of pressure around that. But apart from that, there's a lot of social media bullying. When something goes wrong, the shaming that happens, the fact that you cannot speak up to argue against those things that people, the whole world, basically. A lot of things are untrue, but people just want to sell their story. But for you, that's your whole life. And it can be really overwhelming. So yes, what happens on social media has affected that. But apart from that, it's just the depressing news. You know, some people's anxiety will actually increase just by seeing a lot of depressing news. During COVID, we asked people to stay away from social media updates because that was one of the things that was triggering a lot of depression and anxiety. But even now, without COVID, there's enough bad news around that it can actually affect people dealing with that. I think one of the things that I would say, it's a whole problem that systems would take some time to change. But one of the things that I think that Every man needs to take responsibility for his own health. And that's why we talked about health-seeking behavior. And I think maybe I'll take this opportunity to just refer to the book I talked about, How Can I Make the Pain Go Away? And basically, one of the reasons why I wrote that book is because I realized that there's some people who will not knock on a therapist's door and say, I need help, you know, but they just try to figure it out on their own. You know, it's so funny. Like when you're with men, you are in the car, the person is lost. He cannot just say he's lost. Like, how much will it cost you to just open the window and ask the woman there or the man out there, ni road bwaji? You know what I mean? Like, and I just don't understand. No, let's try and figure it out. You go through the map until you've wasted like how much of your time, which you could have just saved by just rolling down the window. But and I see that in a lot of men. Like, they try to figure it out themselves before they can go to the professional. I think that's very retrogressive. But anyway, I think that this is one more tool that somebody who's trying to figure themselves out can work through and try and get the tool, because definitely drinking yourself to sleep is not helping. You wake up in the morning, the problem's still there, you know, and so doing those things is not helping. But I think we need like practical tools that you can use, you can go through, and they will help you to process your issues.
And in addition to that, really, is for people to understand that there is no new problem. Understand that your problem is not unique. So there's help out there. Okay, there is help. There is no problem that I've ever encountered that I thought it was me personally starting. But when I speak to my father, he says, "Well, this happened in 1962, and this is what happened to your aunt." And I say, so you mean this is not new? No, it's not new. So this is how you go about it. And because I asked, right? And yeah.
Having said that, if help is there, how or where is it? Okay, here's a man who is depressed, disillusioned, and what's driving the disillusionment is that I have no job, or that I've lost a business and I'm depressed. Where's the help?
So there's several help options, and we've already talked about how men may not want to get the professional help. Professional help is there. I'll say that. But I think that one of the things, and I think like in chapter 3 of my book, that's one of the things I talk about, talking to someone. It's not just about talking to anyone. You actually have to sit and think and be strategic about who you're going to talk to. And you will find help. There are people who are willing to help. If you do some homework, just try and do some homework and think, for this problem, who can I talk to? Rather than just talking to everyone. And so you need to take the step to be bold enough to talk to someone, to come out of your shell and seek help and ask for those directions so you can stop going round and round there.
On the flip side, Dr. Akane, I needed you to go through this because we know that men are not willing to ask for help. How about those who live around these men, either a wife, a sister, a friend, a brother? What signs are there that would tell you that this person needs help, and how can they help them? What should they be looking for in a brother whom I think needs help? What signs am I looking for in them? Sign 1, 2, 3, 4. If you see these things, that means that person needs help. Get them the help even if they don't want to. What signs am I looking for?
So the first sign, which is a broad sign for everything, is abrupt change in behavior. So this abrupt change in behavior can look like excessive drinking. So the person has been drinking all along, but then now they're drinking a lot more. Or the person has been talking all along, but now they're talking a lot more negatively. Or the person has suddenly withdrawn and they're not sharing, they're not opening up. And then certain symptoms, the person is failing to sleep. They're talking about how they haven't been sleeping for some time. You notice that they're not eating. They're missing meals and so on. So those changes in behavior, abrupt change in behavior, where you can see, this is not Aaron. Aaron doesn't do this. He leaves home at 7. Now he's leaving home at 9. What's going on? Now he's leaving home at 5 a.m. What's going on? That abrupt change in behavior should always tell you something is going on in this person's life that's amiss.
Interesting. Mr. Kaforiman, from the community perspective, are there any areas of help from the community side?
So yes, doctor, there is help in the community. So for starters, there is the church. All right, most people go to church. When we talk about the Roman Catholic, there's also a booth there they have for confessions. You know, all that is in the bid to try to make people talk. All right, and then on the other side, there is organizations such as MANAP Zambia. I can tell you now that actually the biggest supporters of MANAP are actually the women. You see, we have situations where the women actually see the behavior change in the home of the man, but how to get that man to talk to us, for example, becomes the challenge. Because how then do MANAP people then call the man and say, oh yeah, can we meet over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? He'll be suspicious. Already, even in the church setup, there's more women in church than men. Men are actually a suspicious lot, you know, even when people want to help them. And so these channels are there. The most important part is acknowledging you have a problem. The man that overdrinks knows he has a problem. The man who's just shut down knows he has a problem. The first step to recovery is acknowledging the problem. Now, if your spouse, your partner calls us to help you, the moment she now starts talking about this with you, you look like you're being framed. And so your guards get up and all this, and yet what was behind this is all good intention. And so society has help. It's just when you realize this is not going right, contact us. We will channel it to you, Dr. Mujajati, to you, Dr. Akani. You see, there are always portals for entrance of a discussion. So, and when the men have come up, we've seen deeper issues. And then some have actually even come to you, doctor, and said, look, I think this one requires you. And you've brought a specialist to deal with them. Yeah. And so there is help. That's our mpala, so to speak. You know, that traditional setup you're talking about has come in the form of the church, MANAP Zambia, and you guys. So we have to be intentional about being people that can be trusted with such information. All right? Because again, when you are sitting on the MANAP board and you are such a blabbermouth, I mean, how will people entrust you? You know? We need to actually live by example as well. Because if yours is already a disrupted life, how do you expect to help somebody? But sometimes, even a disrupted person is the help they need. This is why even at MANAP, we bring people to talk about businesses that failed. Why? Because I don't learn anything from success. I learn from what somebody did after they failed. And so that's when they open up and actually start talking about their own. And then, surprisingly, there are 6, 7 individuals in the room who have similar problem and tell them how they fix their problem. In the end, people get to be fixing their problems. So community help is there. The first point of realization is to the individual that's dealt with. Sometimes you don't know you're depressed, but you know you're feeling low. So at least you know that. So if they can just either go to church, get somebody. At some point, doctor, you say in chapter 3, you talked about a lot of stuff in there. But then you also talk about you get help, but not just from anyone. I would like to turn this on its head. You know what? As long as you vocalize, that's the first step. You know you open up to the wrong person when what? When you start hearing the story. Until then, you don't know.
But that's another reason why sometimes men fail to come out, because are there enough safe spaces out there where men can actually go and seek their help? By safe, I mean, can a man genuinely put his issues out and not hear them broadcast abroad elsewhere? Because that's where one of the biggest problems is, in terms of men refusing to come out and seek help, is because maybe they feel like there are not enough safe spaces where they can go and, air their issues.
But the surprising thing is that the few safe spaces are not full.
Right. That's an interesting thought.
Yes. I'm a marriage counselor at church at Mount Zion Christian Center. All right? So we hear a lot of things. We deal with a lot of things. But then you see that even the capacity is not filled up. That's a safe space. But that safe space is not filled up. So where are they? I would rather try.
Dr. Akani is not busy enough.
No. You see, I would rather try and fail than never try at all. Okay? So let's not bring this barrier of where's the safe space. The first thing is vocalize. Once you vocalize, it's gone out there in the universe. Somebody will help you. Even the one that heard it from somebody else will come and say, listen, I want to be your friend. Why do you want to be your friend? Because I think you got the same personality. This is what happened to me. Does it, and you move on like that.
Right. Thank you very much. And thanks to both of you for coming. And Dr. Akani, before you leave, ladies and gentlemen, on this show, we do myth busting. So we're going to go through some of the few issues here that I'm going to raise. And Dr. Akani, you will help us decide whether it's a myth or whether it's not a myth. And if you think it's a myth, you will tell us why. And if you think it is not, you will tell us why. The first issue is mental illness is a personal failing. So basically, whoever has a mental illness, they've just failed personally themselves. What's your take? Myth or no myth? And why?
It's a myth, definitely. And I'll start by just saying, can we locate the organ responsible for mental illness in the body? We can locate it, it's the brain, okay? Why don't we say that about the eyes when people have sight problems, that it's their own personal failing? Why don't we say that about the heart? So the brain is an organ, like every other organ in the body, and it can malfunction. It's the one responsible for thoughts and feelings and actions. So I hope that helps.
All right. Here's another thing. This relates to men as well. Talking about your feelings as a man, or rather talking about your feelings will not fix anything.
So that's a myth as well, which is not true. It's false. And I will base my facts on this based on psychotherapy, the role of psychotherapy, which has been scientifically proven that when you actually talk, because psychotherapy is basically talk therapy. Of course, there's other things that are put in place to make sure that the environment is therapeutically safe. But essentially, talking about your feelings externalizes what you're feeling, and it helps you to have an objective view of what's going on within yourself.
The issue here also is this, Dr. Akani, asking for help makes you look weak.
So, yes, that's what people think. That is not true, but I can't change how people think.
Is it a myth?
So what I would say is asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help makes you stronger. I'll go back to the example
of the map.
The map and the directions. If you can quickly get the directions, you quickly get where you're going and get what you need to do and go. Like, it's not a test about directions. You know what I mean? It's a test. It's about trying to get what you want. And then there's this support you can use. So instead of spending a lot of time, wasting time, resources, that could be time spent discovering your purpose, moving forward. Get the support you need to go so you can thrive.
So in short, just keep your testosterone in check. The test comes from there.
In fact,
the final thought here, Dr. Akani, very typical of men, this one. Mwamuna salila. Men should not be showing their emotions. Truth or myth?
Myth. Because, like, men are human beings as well. So what makes a human being? How you think, how you feel, how you act. So it's like you are trying to remove one part of the person, and then you expect them to be a full human being. How does that happen? You are incapacitating that person by doing that. So no, men need to also show their feelings. How they show their feelings, that is a cultural principle based on different societies, but you really do need to show your feelings.
And just on that one, you see, when you say emotions, there are positive emotions and negative emotions, right? So this, I believe, is talking about negative emotions. It's okay for a guy to jump and scream and dance like a child when he's won the jackpot. That's an emotion. All right. So it's okay for somebody to show compassion. It's also an emotion. So what this is saying is emotion as in negative emotion?
Negative emotions, like crying, for example. Men shouldn't cry.
Yeah, we should cry. And it's sad when your child says, Daddy, I've never seen you cry. It's very sad.
You can get some onion.
Yeah, do that. Get some onion. Yeah, it's so sad.
So as we come to a close, lady and gentlemen, what are your final thoughts? And I need you to look into the camera and give your final thoughts on this issue. What's your take-home message to our listeners and our followers? I'll start with...
Yeah, to the men out there, I just want to say this. There is help. All right? Taking your life now may seem like the in thing, but you're actually cutting destiny short. And so before you do that very thing, just understand that we at Man Up Men Mentorship will help you. Not try to help you, will help you. Your voice and whatever you say is secure. Why? Because we need solutions for you. Before you let go of this precious life of yours, your purpose, and all the good things associated with it, do not do that thing. Do not unceremoniously go out of this earth.
Right. Dr. Akani, what's your final thought in the context of the subject that we've had to our followers and listeners?
That life and living is really about a holistic picture. So not just about the things you contribute in terms of materially and technically. You cannot talk about living life fully when you neglect the mental aspects of someone's life or the emotions. And those are important in order for a person to grow and thrive fully, whether you're a man or a woman. And all you're doing when you are ignoring those parts of your life is that you are limiting your growth. You are shortening your life, so to speak. So make sure that you are nurturing every aspect of who you are.
So there you have it. This has been Ask Dr. Mujajati with me, your host, Dr. Mujajati. Today we're exploring a very important subject that touches on men as to why are men dying young. And we heard for ourselves, the reasons are many. They range from factors within society itself, factors affecting men themselves, and our unwillingness to look for help even when the problem is very obvious. And we've heard for ourselves, if you live with a man and you've noticed some of these issues that were raised here, don't hesitate to assist them to look for help. Until next time, do take care of yourselves and continue to drink water.
Sex is bad, but it's not. Sex is a good thing, it's a beautiful thing, done in the correct way, by the correct people, in the correct setting. So we are brought up thinking this is a horrible thing. I don't feel this, or I don't do that, or, I can't tolerate penetration, or after ejaculation, okay, burn so much, I'm not going to. Aversive things that will make you not want to indulge. They are common, but they are an unspoken subject.
This episode of Ask Dr. Mujajati was brought to you by Mika Group of Hotels.
A Kazadi Films original.